Hi, I'm Michael.
And I'm Leslie, and we're kitchen writers at The Wire Cutter. Sorry, one more time. It's not The Wire Cutter anymore. Okay.
It's okay. I almost said Sweet Home a minute ago, so
yeah.
that's okay. Hi, I'm Michael.
And I'm Leslie, and we're both kitchen writers at Wire Cutter. We love wooden cutting boards. They're great, but they're also expensive, and they require a little bit of maintenance. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna talk about how you can maintain your wooden cutting board so it lasts you for decades.
That's right. So you never want to submerge a wood board in water. You never want to put them in the dishwasher. And if you can't get to cleaning it right away, you just want to let the food crust up on it.
Just let it.
But when it does come time to wash it, we like the 7th generation dish soap. And sponge, Scotch-Brite works, or scrub brush works as well. Be sure to wash both sides of the board so it doesn't warp on one side.
When you wash your board and dry it, always lean it up against a wall. Let it sit there overnight, let it air dry all the way around, because it will get moldy if you just put it away damp, and nobody wants that.
Another thing that you can do to clean the board is to use a vinegar solution, and you can just use regular white distilled vinegar, put it in a spray bottle. We use the ratio of a 1/4 cup of the vinegar to 3/4 cup water, and you can just spray down the board whenever you feel like it, really. That's another way to sanitize it.
Yep, and then you let it air dry. Cutting boards, no matter if they're wood or plastic, will hold on to smells, especially if you chop a lot of garlic. Artichokes can leave a bitter taste behind on cutting boards. So our favorite thing to do, juice half a lemon on it and rub. Do you rub it in?
I rub it in.
Rub it in,
Over
get
the
it all
board.
in there. Sprinkle it generously with kosher salt. Don't be shy with it at all, because this is going to suck the smell out of the wood as it dries. Sometimes the lemon doesn't have enough juice in it to really soak through the salt, so he's adding a little water for help, and he's gonna let this dry overnight, a few hours. Basically, you just want the salt to dry. And once it's dry, then you can scrape it off.
Do you want me to do the honors?
Yes, would you like to use a bench scraper?
Yes, you can use a bench
first?
scraper. You could also, if you don't have a bench scraper at home, you could also use just a spatula, a metal spatula.
And you don't have to use a lot of force.
It just comes right off.
It just comes right off.
It's so satisfying.
Make sure the spatula has a nice flat edge on the front. I mean, if it's rounded, it's just gonna create more work for you. It'll work, you'll just spend a little more time doing it.
And then you want to wash your board as you normally would, and then let it air dry, and then you can oil it after that.
Yeah. So beets stain cutting boards more than any other vegetable or fruit. So it's not the end of the world if you do get a stubborn beet stain, because it will come off over time as you use and wash the board. But if you're impatient or you just really want that stain out, you use baking soda and water. Michael, will you please show us how to do it?
Sure, I would be honored.
Thank you.
Just make like a little paste.
Look at that.
There it is. Oh, thank you. All gone.
Yep.
It's like a magic trick.
I love it.
love it.
So now, wash it with soap and water, and oil it, which we're going to talk about in a second.
You want to oil the board, keep it conditioned so that it doesn't crack. There's no regular schedule for oiling. It's going to be different depending on your climate. If you're unsure when to oil it, you can always test it by just throwing a few droplets of water on it, and if it absorbs the water, then you know it's time to be oiled. It should sort of bead up on the board when it's properly oiled. So there's a bunch of different products you can use. We really like using mineral oil just because it's inexpensive, it's odorless, scentless, tasteless, and you can find it at most hardware stores or kitchen supply stores, so it's really easy to come by.
And I don't think it ever goes rancid, right?
It doesn't go rancid, which is why you want to use it. So you don't want to use olive oil or vegetable oil, because these can go rancid on your board. board. There are other things you can use. There's beeswax, which smells great. I was making everyone smell it. And then there's other products you can use, which are a combination of wax and mineral oil. We've tried actually all of these, and they all worked about the same. There wasn't really much of a difference.
May I please?
Please.
Thank
begin.
you.
Yeah, you want to be sure to oil both sides of the board, and then you can just let it sit for 15, 20 minutes, and then once you've let it sit and absorb some of the oil, then you can wipe it with a dry paper towel just to get all that excess oil off. And then you can just leave it like you would after cleaning it, and just prop it up and let it air dry. Ideally, you want to let it dry for a couple of days. I like to do it when I'm leaving for the weekend or going on vacation or something, just because you know it can totally absorb the oil and do its thing, and you won't be getting it wet again. So when you do oil your board, I always think it's a good time to do the other wood products in your kitchen. So you can do salad bowls and wooden spoons or whatever you have that you need to do. I just do it at the same time because it's easier to remember that way.
Handles, wooden handles
Yes.
of knives.
Yeah.
Especially if you put your knives in the dishwasher. Don't do that.
Yeah, or your cutting board.
So unlike a plastic cutting board, you can easily resurface a wooden board and it'll last longer, and you'll smooth out the gouges, which makes some people uneasy, but also if the gouges are deep enough, your knife will kind of like catch in them, and it just doesn't make for a very smooth cutting experience. So if you rub a terry rag or any rag over it and like it catches, the little loops catch on it, it's time to sand your board. What we recommend is that you start with a medium grit sandpaper. 100 is a good place to start. And you want to start from like the coarser grit and then move down to a fine grit. So Michael has cut these.
Yes, I've already cut these. You can use just like a box, or you can use just the paper by itself. And sand in the direction of the grain.
Oh my God, you're already doing it. It takes a little elbow grease. It's not a passive job, but you don't have to buy a new cutting board.
Yeah.
So I like this aspect of wooden cutting boards better than plastic a lot.
Yeah.
I have to throw away a plastic cutting board and buy a new one, and it hurts my soul, but I have had the same wooden cutting boards for 20 years. I just aged myself. And then after that, wash it. Wash like soap and water, sponge, like get all of that sawdust off, let it dry, and oil it. Michael, why is my board?
It's warped because you put it in the dishwasher.
Oh!
No, but that's how a board will warp. If you submerge it in water or put it in the dishwasher, this is what's going to happen to it. But luckily, there are some ways to fix it. We've tried a number of ways, and we think the easiest way to actually fix the issue is to sponge the concave side, so the side that's slightly flipped up. You want to sponge the whole surface of the board, just one side, and then you'll just flip it over. And for thinner boards like this one, something of moderate weight like this casserole dish works great because it's basically the size of the board, so it's pretty evenly distributed.
Like that?
Like so, yeah, perfect. And go like that. If you have a big board that's like 2 inches thick, you probably don't even need to weigh it down. You can just sponge one side, flip it over, and let gravity do its thing.
Is the rectangular dish intentional? Like, can I just throw a Dutch oven or a cast iron skillet on top of it?
Yeah, you ideally want to use something that's around the same size. You could use another cutting board. You could place another cutting board on top of it that's bigger. That would like evenly distribute the weight. But yeah, you want to keep it even so that when it settles, it doesn't warp again. And it's sort of trial and error. So when we did it in the test kitchen, we had to do it a number of times until we kind of, reached a perfectly level board.
Cool. I like it. I also like this dish.